for nomination as a public protector. Over to you. The mic is before you. I don't know. Just can you show her how to use it?
Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Grimmbach. Over to you, Advocate.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm a practicing advocate with more than 20 years' experience in the legal fraternity. I'm also having extensive managerial experience. Amongst my major strengths is my ability to work independently as well as in a team. I have an LLB and BA Law degrees, which I've attained from the University of the Western Cape. I also have a certificate in leadership development, which I've attained from the University of the Witwatersrand, together with a pre-entry certificate, which I've attained from the National School of Government. Throughout my career, I've held various leadership positions, including Supervisory Professional Assistant, Regional Professional Assistant, and Justice Center Executive. As a legal practitioner, I have dealt with a number of litigious matters over the span of my career, and I've assisted various people in an array of matters in various forums. At Legal Aid, I've had a progressive career for 12 years. I was initially appointed as criminal professional assistant. Thereafter, I became civil professional assistant. I became a supervisory professional assistant shortly thereafter. Thereafter, I was promoted to regional professional assistant. And ultimately, I became Justice Center Executive. As Justice Center Executive, I have held positions at 2 justice centers respectively over a span of 8 years. During that time, I've investigated complaints. I have taken remedial action and also reported to our regional and national office in order to ensure accountability. In addition to that, I've been acting as a magistrate at 2 magisterial districts respectively. During that time, I've ensured access to justice and also the efficient and effective functioning of the courts. I'm confident that my experience, combined by my education, my investigative skills, communication skills, analytical skills, sound decision-making skills, together with my ability to thrive under pressure, makes me a suitable candidate for this position. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Advocate Marie. Do you confirm the disclosures you made in the questionnaire? If yes, are there any further disclosures you want to make or explain?
Yes, I confirmed my disclosures and I don't have any other disclosures to make at this stage.
Thank you very much. Now is the opportunity for you to interact with the colleagues on my right. Each colleague has 8 minutes with you. So both the answers and the questions must be within the 8 minutes. I now start. Can you start?
Yes.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Sure, thank you so much. Right, I will start with Honorable Mananiso.
Thank you, Chairperson, and welcome, Advocate.
Thank you.
My first question to you It's with regards to the state of the PPSA office, and what can you offer to us if we were to be taken today to say tomorrow you are starting at the PPSA?
I'm sure that at this stage there are so many things to deal with at the specific office. However, I have to prioritize matters in terms of the importance thereof and obviously the urgency in order to see how to deal with matters. As far as the staff is concerned, I will first try to deal with the staff morale in order to get everybody on the same page for us to be able to move forward. And then as far as the work is concerned, if there are any backlogs, we will have to prioritize those matters in terms of, first of all, I will ensure that we have jurisdiction to deal with the matters. And even if we do, I will see whether there isn't any other suitable agency that's more suitable to deal with it. And if not, we will proceed with those matters in terms of importance and urgency.
Okay. Then what would be your special projects without whatever that you have alluded on in terms of prioritizing cases and issues? What would you say if I were to be a public protector? These are my special projects that one needs to implement them as the legacy.
There are a lot of things that I would like to focus on. However, I know that, for instance, high-profile matters are very important in our country for a specific reason. It's because of the perception of the public. It's also to instill confidence in the public that all is well in public life. However, ordinary people should also get the same kind of service from the Office of the Public Protector. And having said that, I will try and make sure to divide the work in order for everybody or all the matters that should be investigated to get the same kind of attention. Obviously, high-profile matters will get more attention due to the nature thereof, but I don't want ordinary people's matters to lag behind as a result thereof.
Yes, on your questionnaire, you can see that you've got extensive experience in terms of legal issues. And we know most of the people, they trust the PPSA office, and those are vulnerable and marginalized people. Mm-hmm. What is it that you can bring as an innovative mechanism to ensure that you touch everybody, even those who are at the rural areas, in terms of getting your services?
In order for rural people to get access to the Office of the Public Protector's Office, without them having to travel so far, I will ensure that we're having outreach programs, maybe attend to an advice line that's at the national office in order for them to contact the advice line, where there will be people throughout the day or night who can assist them. And those staff members, if they are junior, they will obviously be supervised by more senior legal practitioners. I will also have agency agreements with other offices in order to see whether we cannot collaborate with other stakeholders in order to make the Office of the Public Protector more accessible. In addition to that, I will ensure that people in a specific region, in terms of the Use of Official Languages Act, they will be served in a language of their choice or the language that they normally use within a specific region, in order for them to understand and for the information to be accessible to them. And obviously, I'm making an example, at the national level, the language might be English because it's more universal and it will not be necessary to pay for interpretation services, etc., in accordance with that. In addition to that, I will also make use of the media, for instance, television broadcasting or radio broadcasting in order to bring the information of our office to people in rural areas.
Okay. your understanding in terms of your Chapter 9 institutions and whether currently are they actually executing those roles as supposed to? And if not, what is it that you think it needs to be done so that they become fit for purpose for the country?
In my opinion, the Chapter 9 institutions are similar, but they all have different mandates. So I think that all those institutions are doing what they are supposed to do at this stage. There are things that overlap, but I wouldn't say that one office should take over the role of another Chapter 9 institutions matters, for instance. So there's nothing that I would like them to focus on other than what they are already doing. As far as the Office of the Public Protector, of course, we will focus on our mandate in order to ensure that the public is being served pertaining to impropriety in the national or provincial sphere of government, and if there are any allegations of that kind, it will be investigated and the necessary remedial action will be taken pertaining to that.
Okay. Your response with regards to repetitive offenders in the system, what would be your at least short-term program of action in terms of responding to those issues? Because you know now in terms of social crime in South Africa, everything is happening so fast and so badly in a sense that you can see that generally there's lawlessness. So what would be the program of action that, one, if you were to be taken to be the PP, you'd say, these are my priorities and I would want to respond to them within this particular time frame?
Oh, my priorities will definitely be to look at corruption, because corruption is a big problem in our country, and it's having an effect on everything else within our country. Almost everybody is being impacted directly or indirectly as a result of that. So that will be one of my main things to look at. There are a number of other challenges that I would like to address, but things like education, which is also a problem in our country. I believe that a lack of quality education, it perpetuates poverty. And because of that, it's having a negative impact on our country. And I believe if people are properly educated, which is a basic right in terms of our constitution, they can come back and give back to the country, so the country can grow as a result of that. Okay. Also, healthcare services that's very poor will be looked at. Because of poverty, people don't have access to quality healthcare services. They can't afford private healthcare services, and I think it's unfair that you should get substandard healthcare services just because of the fact that you are an ordinary citizen of the country.
Okay, as I conclude, Chair, your understanding on
you are
conflict
over time. Can we allow?
Is my time up?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
It's started at 15:36 and it's now 15:44. And it's Honorable Advocate Braden Parks' turn. Over to you, Advocate.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Good afternoon, Madam.
Good afternoon.
You are hoping to be appointed to a position of leadership into an office that is really important constitutionally. Do you agree?
Yes, it is.
The office is deeply divided and conflicted. How do you propose to get this office working optimally in a short space of time? Please be brief. I have other questions.
As I've said earlier, I will first have to look at the staff, because I believe that if the staff morale is low, then nothing will happen that's of great significance. I will also look at what what we can do with the current resources at our disposal in order to work optimally with what we have in order to improve the services at the office that's currently being rendered.
Okay. What do you understand under the principle of legality?
The principle of legality, to me, it means that the law must be respected, and nobody is above the law. So if there is legislation in place, then all citizens are, irrespective of the position that you hold, you are supposed to be subject to the laws of the country.
Okay, well, bearing in mind that answer, what do you understand under the principle of the rule of law?
I was actually speaking about that now. I was actually speaking to the principle to the rule of law, about the fact that nobody is above the law.
Okay, do you want to give the principle of legality another try? Bearing in mind the office that you're applying for?
The principle of legality is about the fact that, for instance, like the Office of the Public Protector it is an institution that's been created by the Constitution, and the Constitution governs that the Office of the Public Protector. So all the roles and everything else emanates from the Constitution and obviously the Public Protector Act.
Okay. How's your Latin?
It's not superb, but I can give it a try.
Okay. Do you know what the Latin principle nullum crimen sine lege means?
That sounds great.
Yes, we understand that, Yankee, but I'm not talking to you. If you don't know, it's fine. This isn't a Latin test.
I can't think of it now.
Okay, no problem. In your CV on page, in your questionnaire, let me just find it. Which page was it? No, that helps me a bit. Page 8 or 5. There we go, page 5. The top of your questionnaire on page 5. You're answering a question about your past employment. And I'll read you the sentence. It says, for a period of 8 years, I was at the helm of 2 justice centres, respectively, while successfully leading a diverse team. During my reign, I have investigated and resolved complaints, taken remedial action, and ensured compliance. It's that word reign that fascinates me. During your reign. What precisely did you want to convey with that, during your reign?
During the time when I spearheaded the 2 offices.
And do you stand by that choice of word, reign?
Maybe it was just a choice of words at the time.
I'm asking you today, do you stand by that choice of words, during my reign?
I would say yes, because reign is a synonym for during the time when you have actually spearheaded the office, or it's a synonym for that. So yes, I do stand by that.
You don't think reign denotes a king or a queen?
No, definitely not. Not in this instance.
That's not what you meant?
No, definitely not.
I see. But that is what reign means?
No, that's not the only meaning of it.
I see. The Constitution says that the Republic of South Africa is founded on the supremacy of the Constitution and the rule of law. What does this mean?
The Constitution is the supreme law of our country. Yeah. So every other national legislation, if it's not in line with the Constitution, then it will be unconstitutional or invalid. So everything that emanates from the Constitution must be in line with what is in the supreme law of our country.
That's one half of the question. The other half is supremacy of the Constitution and the rule of law. What does it mean? South Africa is founded on the supremacy of the Constitution and the rule of law. I want you to interpret that sentence for me.
Like I've said, the Constitution is supreme, and every other thing, everybody in our country is subject to the Constitution, irrespective of your position, or even in this case, if you were royalty in our country, you would still be subject to the Constitution.
During your reign.
Yes, yes, it would have been still subject to the Constitution.
Okay. You say that you were involved with Legal Aid South Africa as, first of all, sort of in charge of the criminal matters?
No, I was a criminal practitioner, yes, a criminal legal practitioner, and then a civil practitioner, and then thereafter I was mostly dealing mostly with civil matters.
What type of criminal matters did you deal with?
It varied. It was matters in the district court like ordinary housebreaking, reckless and negligent driving, and then murder cases in the regional court, rape, etc., etc.
I see. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a minute over. I donate it to Mr. Horn.
Colleagues,
None of you.
in fact, it's a few seconds, about 30 seconds. I see the opportunity now for Honorable Maude to ask her questions. Over to you, ma'am.
Advocate.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm not sure if you're advocate. You are advocate.
Yes,
Good afternoon,
Advocate
Marais.
Marais.
Excuse me?
Good afternoon, advocate.
Good afternoon.
Are you well?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
So I'm looking at your questionnaire, and in one of your responses, you say that in your position as acting magistrate, you have increased access to justice. What do you mean?
I have
And give
increased.
us practical examples.
Sorry. I've increased access to justice by dealing with large amounts of work. So by doing the amount of work that I was doing, obviously meant that more people had access to the courts. In my court, for instance, when I was sitting, I would normally proceed and finalize my role for the day, and not get involved in pardons and things like that, or I try to prevent that. Even if there were pardons, I would finalize that as soon as possible. I would also deal with a number of judgments, do my judgments as soon as I can, as quick as I can, in order for people to get outcomes in their matters.
So do you attribute that to only you or a collective achievement? Because you've got a prosecutor on the side, you've got the state and the accused prosecutors, and you've got the support staff from your office that, at the end of the day, fast track the processing of cases. So why would you attribute it to you only?
You are correct by saying that there are a number of role players involved. However, I am the person who's spearheading that court, who's in charge of the role, who must see to it that the court work must be done. I was the person who ensured that the court will start when it's supposed to start, in time, when after lunch, when it's time to resume court, it must resume. Or I normally went to work early in the mornings to start with default judgments, for instance, work on a number of that before I started my actual court. So I feel it's just fair to say from my side that I have ensured access to judgment, to justice.
Okay, and then you go ahead to say if you are appointed into the position of the PP, you will recommend a review of legislation to modernize and simplify the legal framework for public procurement. Can you explain to us and give us an examples of how you would change the legislation as a PP?
I would not be able to change the legislation myself. I would be able to make recommendations in order to see that the procurement system must maybe just be simplified. It must maybe be more user-friendly or accessible to everybody, or more transparent. That's actually the thing. From a national level to a local level, in order for everybody to be on par with what's happening in real time on a daily basis with regards to procurement, for instance. I'm sure that if that is really happening in practice, then a lot of maladministration or corruption and problems, challenges like that can be eradicated.
So there are services that are offered by national, provincial, and local government, which are common throughout, like security guards, the cleaners. Do you think it will be wiser to insource rather than to go out and tender to advertise for security services that you will need from today for the next 100 years?
No, is that the follow-up question?
Yeah, we coming now from you changing the legislation.
Okay.
So my question is one of the legislation that you would want to recommend the insourcing of security guards that cuts across local, provincial, and national?
No, I never touched on anything like that in my reply. I didn't say that I would like to.
I'm not saying you did. I'm saying you say you would want to change the legislation or contribute to the changing of the legislation. Now my question to you is, there are services that are offered that you know that you're going to need them. You need cleaners every day, security, and all of them. Is it your view that you might want to contribute to the legislation of insourcing? Yes or no?
No, I didn't specifically speak to that, but it might be part of it. I can't say it's just this or it's just that. It will have to be a whole number of things that will have to be looked at. And to be clear, with regards to insourcing or outsourcing of services, that specific question, that wasn't part of my reply. And I can't say absolutely, yes, you can just insource or yes, you can just outsource, because it's situational.
That's fine. I'm trying to manage time, Chair. Let's move on. So, you are a magistrate.
I was an acting magistrate.
Okay. And then in your career, how many people have you had in your office reporting to you relative to, if you were to be given this position, do you know how many people are going to be managing or leading in the office of the PP?
In my career, I have managed a number of people per office. Probably in the two offices together, it might be more than 80 people. I'm talking about my time now at Legal Aid. So I'm used to work with large numbers of people. In this instance, it might be hundreds of people, obviously because the scope is bigger. But to me, it will be more people, but it will remain the same to me.
Do you have an idea of how many people are in the office of the PP currently?
A couple of hundreds of people. There's temporary staff and permanent staff, so it might be approximately 500, more give or take.
Okay. Should the public protector make a call for donations from individuals and corporate companies? What do you think about donations from such entities?
The public protector gets funding normally from Parliament, but if that is insufficient in order to ensure that the mandate in terms of the Constitution is being taken care of, then yes, I will just look into it in order to see whether it is feasible to get funding from elsewhere. And obviously, having said that, I will weigh all the pros and cons in order to see whether it is feasible to get funding from elsewhere.
You listed corruption as one of the challenges facing this country. And you say that to address this, you recommend implementation of code of conduct and together with anti-corruption policy. Is it your view that the current PP is not addressing that, or it's not happening in the office of the PP currently? And can you give an example of how exactly are you going to address that issue of corruption?
No, not at all. I didn't refer to anything that the current public protector is doing or not doing. I would just like to put that on record. I was just speaking about the fact that in our country in general, we should integrate systems in order to make all the departments of justice or organs of state work better, more user-friendly, more transparent, more open for everybody in order to ensure public accountability.
And that will keep corruption.
It won't keep it entirely, but it will assist in order to deal with the problem.
Okay. I've given you an extra minute as a donation. I now move to, thank you very much. I now move to Nkosi Buthelezi.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. And my greetings to Maris, if I'm spelling correctly. I've got very short questions and specific. Firstly, you refer to yourself as this dynamic legal practitioner, an assertive leader. Can you just help us as this body to just refer us to a specific incident that can prove, in particular, this assertiveness that you're speaking about here?
During the time when I was spearheading one of the justice centers, we had a service delivery problem at one of the courts. One of the courts was not productive because there were relief magistrates servicing that court as and when they became available. That led to a number of backlogs, undue delays, etc. I've had a meeting with the chief magistrate, and also I've reported the matter with the regional executives of the judiciary, the NPA, and Legal Aid South Africa, and I've persisted with that until a permanent magistrate has been appointed.
Okay, thank you. Your strong leadership now combined with the assertiveness of yours and your ability to work independently and within a team, what do you understand is the value of synergism? You are this assertive leader, dynamic, you are able to work independently and within a team. What do you understand is the value of synergism?
Is the value of assertiveness?
Synergism.
Oh, synergism.
Yes.
For me, it's important, obviously, I can work independently, but it's also important to collaborate with team members because everybody's bringing their own values to the table. Having said that, the Office of the Public Protector is supposed to operate independent from other state departments, government departments, organs of state, etc. And that is important, and it's actually, in terms of the Constitution, the Office of Public Protector should be independent and impartial.
Okay. Of course, we are not vying to be a councillor or a minister or a director, but to be a public protector. Therefore, how do you think you can use this office to advance the government's agenda in terms of service delivery? Because this office does not deal directly with the service deliverables, rather.
How I can advance service delivery?
How are you going to advance government's objectives in terms of service delivery, since this office does not deal directly with water provision, road construction, and all that?
I will deal with it through my investigations. If I get an inquiry for an investigation for service delivery, or pertaining to a service delivery problem, I will investigate it, give the other party an opportunity to give their input. I will evaluate that input, and obviously, together with all the facts and everything, give my report together with a recommendation in order to ensure that the service delivery that should happen is being afforded to the people.
If you happen to be appointed, do you have some fears that politicians will try to influence you? If so, what do you think you can do if you come across that?
I'm not affiliated to any political party, so I don't have any fear that political parties would like to influence me. And even if people would like to do that, I think one of the values of the public protector, in terms of being fit and proper, is to be incorruptible. So I'm not afraid about that for myself.
Okay. Last question. You are acute aware that our country is still battling with the issues of gender imbalance at workplace. Was this one of your reasons you applied for the post? And secondly, knowing that your two prisoners were female, what have you learned from them that you think you can take home?
I've never applied for any position because of the fact that I'm a female only. I am quite confident that I'm competent to deal with any job description that I'm assigning myself to. So pertaining to your first question, no, I haven't applied for the position because of gender issues or the fact that there is an imbalance at the workplace. I'm applying because I'm a capable person to do the job.
The latter part of my question then.
Pertaining to the other two public
Yes.
protectors, the predecessors,
Yes.
I've learned a lot from both of them. And I think I can use what's good for me and what is not so good for me in order for me to move forward with regards to this position.
Thank you, Chair. That still saves you a minute or so and decide who I give.
Sure. Thank you very much. Okay. Honorable, all right, Chape. Thank you.
Discretionary.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Advocate Murray.
Good afternoon.
Let's go to the institution that you are applying for. What would you say are key programs of Public Protector SA? What is your opinion about them? And if there are changes that you would want to effect, what will that be on the programs? Programs for PPSA.
With regards to the current situation at the office of the public protector, I think that one will have to review a lot of things at this stage in order to see, depending upon the current situation, the issue pertaining to staff that might not be sufficient to do the work. There's a lack of resources at the Public Protector's Office. All of those things will obviously have an impact on the current programs that should be dealt with.
Which are, I asked the
So-
first question, what are these programs? Do you know the programs?
Yes, the Public Protector is having a lot of, say for instance, there's outreach programs to the people in outlying areas. The Public Protector, through all those programs, wants to instill confidence in the public that all is well within the public sphere.
Okay. Let's move on in the interest of time. Your experience in the public service. I noticed in the CV that it has been around you being a legal practitioner for legal aid and acting magistrate and so. Now the role of the PP requires you to meet particular standards expected of the holder of the public office. What do you understand about the expected standards as defined in Section 195 of the Constitution, and how will you apply them, SPP?
The expected standards.
Yes.
The public protector herself must be a person of integrity, honesty, professionalism, a trustworthy person, and as I said earlier, a person that should be incorruptible. All of those things will ensure that the public protector is functioning independently and impartially without fear, favor, or prejudice.
Tapping on what Honorable Mautwe earlier on asked you in your response on the question about corruption, one of the issues that you're stating here on it as a key challenge, you're saying obviously you will recommend the review of the public procurement legislation. What is particularly wrong with the procurement legislation?
I wouldn't say that there's something particularly wrong. I do believe that one can always enhance what already exists. So that is what I meant by what I was saying then. It doesn't
Reviewing
mean
it just to enhance.
to see whether we can enhance it, whether we can make it better.
Okay. My last question also on that. You also indicated the challenge as energy crisis. And you're stating here that part of my remedial action will include a recommendation for implementation of vital structural reform measures, which will unlock the country's growth potential. Do you mind naming these structural reforms measures?
I was talking specifically about the plants that needs attention and that should be upgraded. Those are the reform measures that I'm talking about. Structural reform measures.
Obviously, you want to couple that with implementation of good operation practices at ESCOM. What's wrong with the practices at ESCOM?
Again, I'm not saying that there's something wrong with it. I'm just saying that one can look at it to see how we can improve, because for me, if a current system appears not to be working, then it's good to look at it, to review it, and to see whether it's possible to enhance it.
Chair, I donate to Honorable Lesson. Thank you.
I done. I thank you very much. The next honourable member to ask the questions is Honourable Hon.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. In your practice of law, either as at legal aid, as a magistrate, or as an advocate, to what extent have you worked with administrative law, other matters of public law, like specifically procurement law and public finance legislation?
I've worked a lot with the Public Finance Management Act, for instance, during the period when I was Justice Centre Executive, and that was for 8 years approximately. Also within the confines of the Legal Aid Act, and the policies and procedures. So I've worked a lot with public administration as well as public monies, and budgeting, how to budget monies, transferring of budgets, etc., etc.
And my question was, as part of your practice of law, so I understand that as part of management you would have had to do with it from that side, but as part of your legal practice and your...
As part of my legal practice, I've dealt with administrative law, but I wouldn't say that was an extensive part of the law that I've dealt with, or that I specialized in that. But I have dealt with it during my practice.
So in terms of the public protector and its duties and functions, what must always precede remedial action?
It's important, obviously, if I do an investigation, it's to afford the other party or the relevant party an opportunity to give his or her input, and then I will evaluate that before I will make a recommendation and say what the remedial action should be.
So the current public protector has been at the receiving end of a number of successful review applications, and in one or two of those matters, the court found that she ultimately worked backwards. So she settled on remedial actions she wanted to impose, and then she embarked on an investigation. Would that be an acceptable practice?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think it's in the Mail and Guardian case. The judge spoke specifically about, how to deal with investigations. It's to deal with it with an open and inquiring mind, and to go through the layers of matters. You mustn't just decide beforehand, this is the outcome that you want, and now you're going to work around that. You have to work with the evidence, corroborate the evidence, see, for instance, whether documents are authentic, whether witnesses are reliable, the probabilities, etc., before you get to a remedial action.
Now, well, in light of that, and other colleagues have touched on it, I want you to explain a number of the comments you made in the questionnaire. I will skip the others that has been dealt with, but in respect of poor healthcare, you say, I will take remedial action to ensure that service delivery should be provided fairly, equitably, without bias, and that mechanisms to be implemented to ensure quality healthcare services. So how will you then go about to, if you've already decided this is what you want to achieve?
So if I get a request for an investigation, I will start to investigate the matter, get the relevant information from everybody who can assist with the matter. That will include maybe a healthcare, a hospital, for example, and everybody else. I will go through all the evidence, see whether it's reliable, whether documents are authentic, maybe get people to come and give oral evidence, etc., etc.
But do you understand that your submission says that you've already decided there is a lack? My apologies.
Please repeat your question.
So do you understand that your comments in the questionnaire said that you've already concluded that that's what's the problem?
The general problem in the country is that the public healthcare service is not in a good state for members of the public to use. So I was just speaking from that point of view, generally.
Okay. Then my last question, in your questionnaire you also talk a lot about policy. I don't know whether you want me to read for you. An anti-corruption policy in the one question, policies around education. What role does the public protector have in terms of remedial action in dealing with policy?
Is to ensure that it's being implemented. If there are policies, and I do believe that our country is having good policies in certain areas, sometimes it's just a matter of implementing it or to ensure that it's being enforced. And if it's not, say it's procurement, for instance, and somebody didn't follow those steps or the policy.
No, that's not policy, that's law. So do you understand there's a difference between policy and law?
Yes, I do.
So what role does the public protector have in matters of policy?
as I've said, it's I would say it's twofold. It's in order to see that there is transformation of policies, existing policies that doesn't work anymore, that might not work anymore. And if there are good policies in place, it's in order to see that it must be implemented.
Thank you, Chair.
Who do I allocate your minutes to?
To Mr. Wessels. We keep it in the pact.
Oh, yeah, Honorable Wessels is the next person to ask the question. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson, and let me use the minute to start where Honourable Horn left off and where you stopped. You spoke now about the transformation of policy. Who do you think is responsible for the implementation and the transformation of policy, if you refer to the Constitution of South Africa?
The legislature will, for instance, if it will start there, if they want to make law or, you know, bring something into law, it will start there. So, and from all those discussions, it will flow for policies to be made or to be implemented, etc., in different spheres of the government.
So you do understand the separation of powers doctrine and
Yes.
where a Chapter 9 institution fits into that?
Yes.
Okay. Understanding that, if we can reflect on, do you think if you reflect on the past since the establishment of the Public Protector and also in recent past, do you think the Public Protector has ever encroached on another Chapter 9's functional area or mandate? And can you give an example?
I've said earlier that sometimes it happens that the functions overlap. I will make an example of the Human Rights Commission, for instance. They have a specific mandate, but sometimes an inquiry of the Public Protector's Office might involve a human rights matter. So the complaint or the inquiry wasn't initially about human rights, but that might come to the fore. And because of that, it will happen that the Public Protector can either refer a specific part of it to the Human Rights Commission, or then proceed with the whole matter, depending upon the nature of the matter.
Do you think there's a need for better coordination between Chapter 9 institutions?
I think it can be improved, yes.
And how would you do that?
I would think that one can have a memorandum of understandings between all the institutions, obviously after deliberations and discussions and so on, in order to see how to streamline the work of all Chapter 9 institutions.
You said you're not reflecting on the person of previous holders of the office, and I'm not asking you to do that, but if you were to reflect on the Public Protector, the Office of the Public Protector since its establishment, what areas
I don't know. The mics are on. The system is on. Please, if you could just have that established. Thank you. You know, I was on an aircraft and they switched off the lights and the baby at the back cried, "Load shedding!" Honorable Wessels, who was on the platform. Thank you very much.
Thank
If
you.
you could just repeat your questions, Honorable Wessels.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. In what areas do you think has the public protector fulfilled its mandate successfully?
I would say in ensuring good governance with regards to public or government institutions. The public protector was doing well, I think, in the recent past, in that area specifically, and should be commended on that.
Where's improvement needed, do you think?
In the Office of the Public Protector.
Overall, in terms of areas where there's fulfillment of the mandate?
I think improvement is needed in respect of, I would say, just general matters of general concern pertaining to the public at large, because of the fact that high-profile matters take so much attention and resources, etc. And because of the lack of resources or paucity of resources at the offices of the public protector, it's very challenging to focus on the vast majority of matters pertaining to ordinary citizens. So I think that can be improved with the necessary assistance, of course, pertaining to resources.
Reflection just now on remedial action. I think you would be aware of the fact that there's an overall problem that remedial action, which is binding, is not implemented by state organs. How would you handle the non-compliance with remedial action?
There's a constitutional case which states that the remedial action is binding. So it is not negotiable with state institutions as to whether or not they're going to implement remedial action. The Constitution is also clear about the fact that other organs of state must assist the Office of the Public Protector in order to maintain its dignity, independence, impartiality, etc. So with regards to that, I will deal with a specific institution and make all of those things clear to them in order to ensure that they are acting in terms of the remedial action. If not, then I will have to escalate it to the next level, depending upon which level it is of government.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Vessels. Honorable Janji. Thank you, Chair. Advocate Mare, you can take the water.
Thank you.
Thank you. So your prayer is to become the new public protector. Can you just confirm that with me?
Yes, I do.
Is that what you want?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that is the institution that you want to be the head of. In terms of the Constitution, Section 181, 2 to 5, is governed by at least a set of 4 principles. What are those?
Section 181 is about, or from Section 181 onwards, it's about the appointment of the public protector and obviously the attributes that the person must have in order to become.
Yeah, the appointment is on Section 193. It doesn't belong in Section 181. I'm asking you, in Section 181, there are a set of principles governing and establish an appointed public protector in terms of Section 193. All I'm asking is just to share with me what are those 3 principles.
Let me assist you. You have already mentioned one. I want then the three. You have said organs of state must assist. That's one of the principles. Maybe that will help you remember.
The public protector must investigate.
Are you guessing?
No. No. The public protector is appointed to investigate matters of organs of state, right? If there's an alleged impropriety, and the person must also write reports and make recommendations.
It's not one of those principles. Let's leave that. We're going to get into a guessing journey. My next point. There's something called looking forward and looking back. Before you came here, were you able to have a few minutes of your time to go through the annual report of this institution, the recent past of 2021-2022, as well as the annual performance plan of 2023-2024? Were you able, I just need a yes or no answer.
Yes, I went through it.
You did. So for this current financial year, what's the budget for that office?
The budget must be in the vicinity of 200 and odd million.
Are you guessing?
I'm stating it.
It's not that, no. My next point, so that we proceed here, Chair. I want to talk to us about the evolution of these Chapter 9 institutions. There would have been a process that was delivered or concluded in 2007 by the late Professor Kader Asmal, who looked into the health of these institutions. And that report focused on how we fix the Chapter 9 institution. So in 2023, Parliament is having an inquiry which is about the fitness to hold office of the incumbent. What went wrong? Yeah, the report 16 years ago about how to fix the institutions. This year, it's about we're talking about a removal of an incumbent, which is not the institution.
Professor Kader Asmal's report dealt with the overlapping or duplication of the functions of this Chapter 9 institutions. So part of what might have went wrong is the fact that certain institutions could have dealt with certain matters or certain functionaries instead of the office of the public protector. And I think because of that, there were a number of reviews, matters being taken on review, etc., as a result of that.
Okay. This Constitution of the Republic of South Africa in Section 193, which is about the appointment of public protector and other commissioners, says the public protector and other commissioners of the same must be a woman or man who's South African, who's fit and proper. I just want you to help me because I've already helped you just running it through, just with two things. Why do you think they phrase it in that way, to say a woman or man and not say persons? Can you think of any reason?
I think it's in order to ensure inclusivity.
Of who?
In terms of gender, in order to ensure that everybody is included, and not for people to have this notion. It's like if you say the ombudsman, for instance, there's a male connotation to that. So I think it's being phrased in that way in order to make sure that everybody is included.
Thank you. And then the fit and proper is not defined there. How do you understand a person being fit and proper?
I see a person as fit and proper, the attributes, as being somebody who's having a high level of integrity, honesty, professionalism, and a person who's incorruptible.
Is Advocate Mare fit and proper?
I would say so, yes.
Why?
Because I have those attributes.
I yield back, Chairperson. Thank you.
Oh, you've saved me a minute and a half. Thank you very much. It's now Honorable, oh yes, Honorable Makwanyisha, and then I'll move to Honorable Lisoma.
Good afternoon, Advocate Mare.
Good afternoon.
How do you manage stress?
It's situational. It depends upon the situation. But normally, if it's in my free time, I read or I go for a walk or something to clear my head a bit. If it's at work, then I will just take a little break to regroup, and then I will proceed with what I have to deal with.
How do you deal with criticisms?
Criticism is part of life, and especially if you're practicing law, you're getting that all the time, or you should grow a thick skin for criticism, because it's part of the package, so to speak.
How do you deal with criticism?
I'm dealing with it well.
Okay. What type
Or maybe can I proceed just with that? If somebody's giving me criticism, I will try and get feedback in order to see whether it's constructive or not. If it's constructive, then I will see what I need to remedy or do differently in order to handle the matter better moving forward. If it's not constructive criticism, then I will not own that and move on.
What type of majority is required to appoint the public protector?
2/3.
What type of majority is required to appoint a public protector?
Two-thirds majority of the members who's interviewing of the panel.
Is there a difference between 2/3 and 60%?
Yes, there is.
Who has the power to suspend the public protector?
The National Assembly. Or the president, to suspend the president.
Okay. What is your understanding of the role of the public protector in respect of requirements of the Executive Members Ethics Act?
The role Executive Members Ethics Act. The public protector is having sole jurisdiction over that. I think in terms of Section 3 of the Executive Members Ethics Act, the public protector can investigate matters in which the executive is allegedly involved in terms of impropriety, corruption, etc., etc.
What are the challenges in implementing that act?
There is a number of challenges. First of all, the ethics code, the executive members' ethics code is not exactly, it doesn't correlate exactly with the act. And secondly, there is the 30-day period during which the public protector must give a report. It's almost undoable, considering the fact that matters emanating from those kind of investigations are normally very complex. However, that can be remedied if the public protector is within a 30-day period, is giving a report to say, that the investigation isn't complete, she can then afterwards submit a report when it's completed.
Thank you very much, Advocate Murray. Thank you, Chair. The remainder of my time can go to Honorable Osomo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Simon. It's your turn. You don't have to use all this.
No, don't be. Chair, may I be protected by myself to everybody else? Thank you. No, good afternoon, ma'am, Advocate Mare. Probably just building up from the questions when you respond to Honorable Mautwe and Honorable Buthelezi here, the honorable members. You use some 3 words, if it's good for me, but also appreciating that public protector is not for me, it's for the public. You protect the public. And I'm not too sure what informs that, but it's probably for another day we can engage on that. That will brings me to what Honorable Makwanisha have asked. I think, no, not Makwanisha, Honorable RT Judge, in terms of whoever. 2/3 vis-a-vis 60%. Do you vote? You do?
Do I vote in our national elections?
No, I don't know. Do you vote?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay. So, so which means you do vote for a party. That means then the independent, you are not independent because the question would be saying independent from what and who. But I'm just making a statement on this one based on the responses that you have been given earlier on. Honorable Horn raised a matter on around remedial actions. Would you agree with me that some of the remedial actions from today backwards that have been pronounced by the public protector as an institution, leave your own body, the face, some of them, they tend not to be implemented by the relevant bodies? Would it, because of those remedial actions are not implementable practically? For an example, if a committee A gets asked for water and there are other limitations, would it be the reasons or should be looked at what will be then your turnaround to make sure that you improve that situation so that whatever ticklish it may be in terms of remedial actions does get enforced and respected? I'm talking about turnaround now. Thank you.
I think that the remedial actions should be practical in terms of implementation. When recommendations is being made, then one should ensure that it can be practically implemented. And also in terms of the nature of it and also in terms of the time frames.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair, through your good self, Advocate. Probably give me just one case scenario, what in terms of your view that can be done to improve cooperation between and coordination between Chapter 9 institutions and related to independent state institutions as the way. I know it has been asked, but I want to be specific in terms of not generalizing. Take just one case study that you can just share with us that can be employed.
Of how the institutions can cooperate. I took Chapter 9 institutions, but I will make an example now of the Special Investigations Unit, for instance. If there is corrupt activities involved, then, and the Special Investigations Unit is the best unit to deal with that kind of issue, then discussions can be held prior to that in order for the public protector to be able to refer matters to them in terms of a memorandum of understanding or vice versa, or they can refer matters to the the Office of the Public Protector. The same goes for other Chapter 9 institutions.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. When you are responding to Honorable Janji, he made a preamble that seeks to make an assumption that you would have gone through the business plan as well as the AG's report, as it were. Can you just, for my own sense of comfort, provide your strategic vision of the evolution of this institution over the next 7 years in terms of your term of office if you get appointed? And that will be my last point, Chair. Thank you very much. I'm within my time.
I will make the Office of the Public Protector more accessible to people at grassroots level, and especially poor and vulnerable people, because I believe that, considering our history in our country, those are the people who are normally not in a position to stand up for themselves, so to speak. So I think that the Office of the Public Protector should focus more on that in order to be more involved in matters pertaining to ordinary people, and also to ensure that the truth must not just be sought, or you mustn't just get the truth of the matter, but the confidence must be instilled in the public that it has actually happened.
Thank you. Are you done, Honorable Soma? Yes. All right. Just one last question from myself. There are institutions that are by law sworn to confidentiality. One of them is SARS, the South African Receiver of Revenue. Section 69 of the Tax Administration Act prohibits an official of SARS from disclosing taxpayer information to any person who is not an official of SARS. To what extent, in your view, does that limit the exercise of power or the mandate of the public protector? If it does, can that be avoided in any way? Do you have any suggestions to give?
There's actually a constitutional case that dealt with that specific section, where the public protector requested SARS to give personal information about a specific individual, and they were not in a position to do it because they were prohibited by the law. If the law prohibits you to do something, I'm going to start now with SARS employees. They are not above the law. So it doesn't mean because of the fact that the public protector is asking for the information that it must be done contrary to the law. Because the public protector is also subject to the law. So how that could have been prohibited to get tax information from somebody, in this instance, was to request the person, maybe for the information, and to see what the person's attitude would have been. Maybe he could have given the information. And then it wasn't necessary to revert to SARS and to put that kind of pressure on them that ultimately led to this constitutional court case. So I think that everybody should work within the confines of the law in our country.
Even if it limits the exercise of your mandate?
If it limits the exercise of your mandate, then you must work within the scope of your mandate.
So be it. Thank you very much. All right, I think we've come to the end of this session. Let me thank you very much for your time and of course sharing your wisdom with the colleagues. We wish you a safe trip back home. You are from Graf?
Yeah, originally.
Originally. Now you are based?
I'm in Joburg.
In Joburg. Okay. Please, a safe trip back home.
Thank you so much for your time and thank you for having me.
The colleague will walk you out as he walks. Oh, no, I think we're at the end. Oh. Okay. Sure. Okay. Colleagues, can we look at the thing for tomorrow? I think it's like this.
But let's start at 9, exactly.
Oh.
Start on time tomorrow.
No, we definitely do.
Let's try.
Yeah. Let's try our best. I emphasize the point. We're starting at 9. All right, we'll start at 9 tomorrow. I think everything is still fine, eh? Yes. All right, so until we meet again. Thank you. Sure.